break from his friends in chapter 13, and he said this. Verse 15, though he slay me, I will hope in him. Isn't that a beautiful statement? I mean, is it God? You mean I got to go through that? God? I got to go to church. I got to, God? I got to do that? Job said, if he kills me, I'm going to hope in him. If he finds it his will to kill me, I'm going to believe in him. What a faith commitment to God. What a walk with God that was. And he said, nevertheless, I like his part, I will argue my ways before him. How many of you like to argue? Betty said I'd argue with, whatever, whether it was alive or dead. She's probably right. He said, I'm going to argue my ways before him. Verse 16, this also will be my salvation, for a godless man may not come before his presence. Listen carefully to my speech and let my declaration fill your ears. Behold, now I've prepared my case. I know that I will be vindicated. Who will contend with me? For then I would be silent and die. Now let me try to marvelize these things for you so I can help understand what it's saying. These first 5 passages, Job is declaring his faith in God while at the same time beginning to establish his innocence against the charges of his friends. He was saying, I'm going to go before God. I'm going to talk to God about this because I ain't done nothing. Don't you remember back at the first of the book, God, when you told me I was blameless? I mean, Job didn't understand why what had happened to him had happened to him. And he knew that he was going to take his petition to God and God help him understand what was going on. So he was going to do that. He was saying, I'm going to argue but my case before him. I'm going to go to God and I'm going to remind him of the life I've lived. And I'm going to see what he has to say. And he said, I'm not scared because he knew he was a God-fearing man. It says a godless man couldn't do that. That's what one of the scriptures said. Godless man couldn't do it. He recognized, he had faith and confidence that he had done the best he could do to serve God. And he knew that a godless man could not go before the throne of God. I don't know what happened, but it'd be bad. He said, I'm going to argue my case. The case he'd prepared was his story, his life, and how he lived it in reverence to God. He would go before the Lord with confidence in God's grace and mercy, knowing that he would be vindicated or he would die. That's what he said. Now, Job was in a situation that required fearless, confident, and bold prayer, and he approached it with a do or die commitment. Then Job made this amazing statement in verse 20. He said, only 2 things do not do to me, then I will not hide from your face. 2 things. Job had to be sure of 2 things. He had to know that these 2 things were non-negotiable. So I got to be sure of these 2 things. Just don't do these 2 things. If I can't be sure of these 2 things, I'll hide my face, and what happens, happens. I must tell you today that I need the same 2 things that Job did. You do too, and here they are. In verse 21 and 22. He said, firstly, you got to read 20 with it, but he said, don't remove your hand from me. Oh, wow. Isn't that amazing? And let not the dread of you terrify me. Then call and I will answer, or let me speak, then reply to me. Now listen, the first one is clear. God, whatever I do, whatever I say, keep your hand on me. Oh yeah, just don't take your hand off of me. I can't go through life without your hand on me. Once the hand of God has touched you, you can go back on him. You can go back to a life of sin and rebellion. And I promise you, at a moment when you feel all alone and you're by yourself, you'll remember how that touch felt. You'll remember the peace it brought to your life. You'll remember the love that it brought to your life that was unconditional, that was without payment of any kind. God said, I love you. Here I am. Here's my peace. Here's my joy. That comes from the touch of his hand. You can't run from it. And we can't live without it. Moses was talking with God on the mountain. He said, and God said, hey, go here. Moses said, okay, I'm going to go. God said, I guess I'll go with you. He said, if you ain't going, no, we ain't going neither. Not going without you. So, God, I'm finna come to you and I'm going to argue my case to you. But don't take your hand off of me. Don't take your hand off of me. And when Job spoke of the terror, let not your terror, the fear, the dread of you terrify me. What he was saying, God, he's saying what Hebrews called God's throne. He was saying, God, I'm coming to your throne. Please let it be a throne of grace.